certain things are very hard to stop.
An addiction to murder. Joel Rifkin terrorized the city over a 4-year span, killing one woman after another with his bare hands.
You think of people as things.
And now, a new killer may be following in his murderous footsteps.
April 1996. Rex Heuermann is planning his wedding. Asa is pregnant with their daughter. And somewhere inside that same month, not that year, not that general period, that same month, he strangled a 34-year-old woman named Karen Vergata, dismembered her body, drove what was left of her to Fire Island and left her in the sand. Then he went home and got married. Karen had called her father on Valentine's Day that year. That was the last time anyone in her family heard her voice. Her legs were found on Fire Island in April 1996. The rest of her was scattered across locations that wouldn't be connected for 15 more years. She was Jane Doe number 7 for 27 years. Her father Dominic spent decades looking. He died in 2023, the same year Rex Heuermann was arrested, without ever receiving an official answer.
27 years later, a DNA profile suitable for genealogical comparison was developed from Vergata, and using a cheek swab from her relative, the FBI made a match. Part of Vergata's body, her legs, were discovered in Davis Park, Fire Island in 1996. Sadly, her skull recovered near Gilgo in Gilgo Beach 15 years later.
According to his therapist, Allison Winter, the woman Heuermann waived his own privacy rights for so she could speak publicly in the Peacock documentary, said about what the timing of this murder actually reveals. Karen Vergata wasn't the first. The first was Sandra Costello, 1993. And according to Winter, that killing, the very first one, tells you more about who Rex Heuermann fundamentally was than anything that came after it. Sandra was 28 years old. Originally from Trinidad and Tobago. She had been living in New York City. On November 20, 1993, 2 hunters found her body in a wooded area in North Sea, a hamlet in the Hamptons over 60 miles from where his later victims would be found. For decades her case was filed separately, believed to be an entirely different killer's work. In 2024, advanced DNA matched hairs found on her body to Rex Heuermann with 99.96% certainty. He was 30 years old. And his therapist would later say, Sandra Costello's murder was not planned. It was not ritualized. It was not the 4-day system that would later define every murder after Karen Vergata. It was, in Winter's words, a spur-of-the-moment rage in the family car. That detail is everything. Because what it tells you is that the fantasy had been building for years before 1993. The urges, the compulsion, the internal world he had constructed, all of that existed long before Sandra Costello. What happened in that car was not the beginning of Rex Heuermann. It was the first moment the pressure finally broke through the surface. And then something happened psychologically that investigators and behavioral experts find deeply unsettling about organized serial killers at this stage. He didn't fall apart. He didn't confess. He didn't unravel. He assessed what he'd done, identified the problems with how it happened, and started building a better system. Because here's what researchers who study violent offenders describe as the most dangerous transition in a serial killer's development. And Rex Heuermann made it between 1993 and 1996. The shift from impulse to architecture. The first killing tells you what the person is. Every killing after tells you what they decided to become. By the time he contacted Karen Vergata in 1996, he had a plan. A house. A window of time. A method. A disposal route. He had thought about what went wrong with Sandra, the location, the exposure, the distance from his normal life, and corrected for it. Karen Vergata was not an explosion of impulse. He was a decision. And he made that decision in the same month he was standing at the altar. Now let me take you through how he actually entered these women's lives. Because the murder is not where this story begins for any of these victims. It begins earlier. Much earlier. And the method reveals something about Rex Heuermann's psychology that is more chilling than the violence itself. He never killed on a first meeting. His therapist confirmed it. For the 7 planned murders, Karen Vergata in 1996 through Amber Lynn Costello in 2010, the structure never changed. He would contact a woman through an escort listing. Craigslist in most cases. He used aliases. Burner phones purchased with cash, used briefly, discarded. He would arrange a meeting. Show up. Pay then leave. The first encounter was exactly what it appeared to be. A transaction, unremarkable, completely normal. She came home. She was fine. There was nothing to report to anyone, nothing that registered as wrong because nothing had been wrong yet. And then he arranged a second visit. That second visit was the one she never came back from. What people miss, or rather what you probably missed when you hear that, is what the first meeting actually was. While she walked away believing it was simply business, he was cataloging everything. Where she lived. Whether she had a roommate. Whether she had children she called regularly. Whether there was someone who expected her at a specific time. Or whether there was a window before anyone would notice she was gone. He was running reconnaissance dressed as a client. Building a profile. Narrowing his exposure. By the time the second meeting happened, he knew more about her vulnerability than she knew herself. There was a prop he used consistently in his approach. At least 3 separate women described it. A white envelope held in a way that suggested it was full of cash. A visual promise. An immediate signal of money before any negotiation had even started. Former escort Nicole Brass described going on a date with Heuermann in 2015, 5 years after his last confirmed killing. The envelope appeared.
I had a really, really bad feeling. Like my gut was like telling me I needed to get away from him.
Especially when he actually mentioned the Gilgo case, she says.
When he talked about it, he would like speak in a they and hypothetical, but he had this like smile on his face that made me really uneasy.
He asked if she'd heard of serial killers. Then specifically about Gilgo Beach. He described the area as dark and desolate. Somewhere easy not to get caught. He was describing his own crimes. To a woman he had just met. In a restaurant. In 2015. While sitting across from her with the same white envelope he had used to approach women before killing them. Brass said she believed if she had gone home with him that night, she would not have survived. She didn't go.
Today is not about the person responsible. Today is about the women's lives who were stolen. It is about their voices, their future, and their families, the love that still surrounds them. They are the reason why we are here. 19 years, I lived in a space between heartbreak and hope. Throughout these years, I searched for answer, for truth, for justice. There were moments when the weight felt unbearable, but I never gave up. Maureen was never forgotten, not for a single moment. From the day she went missing until today, she has been carried in every breath, every memory, every fight for answers.
Maureen Brainerd Barnes was 25 years old. Bright blue eyes. She was outgoing and funny and had a 7-year-old daughter named Nicolette and a son who grew up waiting for answers. She disappeared from Manhattan in July 2007. Heuermann's office was blocks away. He walked that neighborhood every single day. After she vanished, a friend of Maureen's received a call from an unidentified man, claiming he had just seen her, that she was alive, staying somewhere in Queens. It sent the family searching in the wrong direction for months. Her daughter Nicolette told reporters after the guilty plea that while the loss of her mother has been an unbearable weight her whole life, the admission finally brought some form of accountability. She has never stopped waiting for the rest of the answers that the plea deal didn't include. Melissa Barthélemy was 24. From Buffalo. She had her cosmetology license and moved to New York to use it. The salon work came slowly. The city was expensive. She took escort work through Craigslist from a basement apartment in the Bronx. Temporary, she told herself. On July 12, 2009, she told a friend she was going to meet a man. She deposited $900. She tried to call an ex-boyfriend who didn't pick up. Nobody heard from Melissa again. But her 15-year-old sister Amanda started getting calls on Melissa's phone a week later. 7 calls over 5 weeks. Always under 3 minutes. He never spoke to the mother. He hung up if she answered. He waited for Amanda specifically. He knew her name before she said it. In the final call on August 26, 2009, he told her Melissa was dead. He told Amanda he was going to watch her rot. He did this with zero operational reason. Those calls created exposure, created a record, were the single most dangerous thing he did across 17 years of calculated, controlled behavior. He made them because the control didn't end with the death. The experience for him extended into the grief of the people left behind. Prosecutors confirmed he also searched online for images of the victims' families after the murders. Their sisters, their children. He sat with what he had created and watched it. Megan Waterman was 22 from Scarborough, Maine. A devoted mother. Her daughter was 3 years old and Megan called her every single day without exception. She disappeared on June 6, 2010. The last surveillance footage shows her leaving a Holiday Inn Express in Hauppauge at 1:15 in the morning. Her phone last pinged a cell tower in Massapequa Park, Rex Heuermann's town, within the geographic area of the tower that covered his home. Inside Megan's mouth, investigators found a rolled-up Bounty paper towel, a specific pattern manufactured exclusively for BJ's Wholesale Club and only in circulation in 2010. When investigators searched Heuermann's home, they found a BJ's receipt. The SKU matched exactly. And inside his desk drawer at his Manhattan office, there was a square of that same paper towel. Sitting there for 13 years while he opened that drawer every single morning to start his workday. His DA called it a memento. He sat across from it every day for over a decade. Megan's daughter Liliana, who was 3 when her mother walked out of that hotel, sat in the Suffolk County courtroom on April 8, 2026 and listened to Rex Heuermann describe what he did. She said it lifted a weight she had carried her entire life. Then she said she still has questions the plea deal will never answer. Amber Lynn Costello was 27 and lived with friends in West Babylon, Long Island. Generous to the point of recklessness, her friends said. The kind of person who would give you everything she had. Her roommates had protected her before, once physically removing a client from their home when she called for help. On September 2, 2010, a man called her multiple times and offered $2,500, far above her usual rate, for a 24-hour arrangement. She left without her purse, without her phone. Her roommate Dave walked her to the door. She hugged him, said she'd be back. After she disappeared, Dave and his roommate described the man to police. Large, well over 6 feet. Distinctive truck. A triangular brace between the cab and the bed. First-generation Chevrolet Avalanche. That description sat in a file for 12 years. When the Gilgo Beach Task Force cross-referenced Long Island vehicle registrations in 2022, Rex Heuermann's name appeared within 6 weeks. 6 weeks. For a case open over a decade. The evidence had not changed. The question had.
Some wonder why the break in the case didn't come years earlier after this roommate of victim Amber Costello told the Associated Press he gave police a description of the hulking suspect and his green pickup truck more than a decade ago.
What you have to understand is, when they're getting that's lost within a sea of other tips and information they're getting. And at the time, there wasn't really any, coherent leadership.
Harrison says the description was not easily matched with the area of interest, Massapequa Park, where phone calls were last made to the murdered sex workers.
Came about that information maybe a couple years ago, but we were unable to attach it to the Massapequa box, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. But the one thing I'm not going to do is knock anybody that was before me.
Valerie Mack was 24 years old from New Jersey, sometimes used the name Melissa Taylor. She was working as an escort in Philadelphia and disappeared in the spring or summer of 2000. A hunter's dog found her decapitated remains in Manorville that November. Her hands removed, one leg severed, her body inside a black plastic bag wrapped in duct tape and rope. She was not identified until 2020, 20 years after her death. Her son filed a wrongful death lawsuit this year after learning that Rex Heuermann's ex-wife and daughter received over $1 million to participate in a documentary about his mother's killer.
Mrs. Ellerup and Victoria Heuermann had no knowledge, no involvement in, no connection whatsoever to these horrific crimes. None. I would like to add, Victoria Heuermann was 3 years old. She was 3 years old at the time of the homicide of Valerie Mack. Mr. Ray accuses her of active participation in a homicide where she was 3 years old. Just take that into consideration on the reckless acts that were brought by this.
Jessica Taylor was 20 years old, working near the Port Authority bus terminal, the same Midtown Manhattan neighborhood where Rex Heuermann walked every morning. She disappeared July 21, 2003. 5 days later, her torso was found in Manorville, less than a mile from where Valerie Mack's remains had been found 3 years earlier. She had been decapitated, arms severed, a tattoo deliberately mutilated to prevent identification. Her skull, hands and forearm were not found until March 2011, 40 miles away, near Gilgo Beach. 8 years after her torso. By 2003 he had been doing this for a decade. And the evidence shows it. He arrived to the encounter with Jessica Taylor carrying surgical drapes and hand-powered saws, both listed under supplies in his planning document. His DNA was found on the surgical drape that had been placed underneath her body. Phone records confirmed his wife and children were out of state the weekend Jessica Taylor was killed, which was consistent with every other confirmed murder. He tracked the family's schedule and used every hour of their absence.
Shannan.
Now here's the midpoint in this story where everything you think you understand about Gilgo Beach has to expand. Because Rex Heuermann is not the only story that Stretch of Highway tells. In December 2010, when police began searching for a missing woman named Shannan Gilbert along Ocean Parkway, they found Melissa Barthelomew's remains within days. Then Megan Waterman. Then Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Then Amber Costello. 4 women in the same quarter mile. And Shannan Gilbert, the woman they were actually looking for, was found 19 months later 3/4 of a mile away in a marsh, partially entangled in shrubbery. Cause of death, undetermined. She has never been charged to Rex Heuermann. Her case has never been fully resolved. Shannan Gilbert ran into that marsh in terror at 4:51 in the morning, on a 22-minute 911 call screaming that someone was trying to kill her. She never got justice. But the search for her is the only reason any of the other women were ever found. That is the unbearable reality at the center of this case. And when the search expanded through spring 2011, it found more. A woman with a peach tattoo, dismembered, lying in a state park since 1997, unidentified. Her 2-year-old daughter found nearby. Both given nicknames. Peaches. Baby Doe. Both remained without names for over 20 years. In April 2025, genetic genealogy finally gave them back. Tanya Jackson, 26, a U.S. Army veteran from Mobile, Alabama, living in Brooklyn with her daughter at the time of their deaths. Her daughter's name was Andrew Dykes. Investigators developed a suspect immediately. Andrew Dykes, Tatiana's father, a married Army veteran who had been having an affair with Tanya while stationed in Texas, fathered her child, brought them to Brooklyn when he was transferred to Fort Hamilton, and then allegedly killed them both. He had been an anatomy instructor in the Army. Prosecutors believe that training explains how Tanya Jackson's body was dismembered the way it was. For 28 years after that, Andrew Dykes was a Florida state trooper, a man with a badge, pulling over drivers on Florida highways, while Tanya and Tatiana lay unidentified on Long Island. Investigators surveilled him in Tampa in late 2024, watched him buy food, retrieved the straw he threw away. His DNA matched. He was arrested December 2025, extradited to New York, charged with murder. He has pleaded not guilty. The Nassau County DA said it plainly: Gilgo Beach is a dumping ground. There are bodies there with no connection to Rex Heuermann. More than one person found that corridor useful. Share this. Not for the views. For Tanya Jackson. For Tatiana Dykes, who was 2 years old. They were unidentified for over 2 decades and most people still don't know their names. And then there is the one who still has no name at all. 300 yards from where Megan Waterman was found. A set of skeletal remains. A biological male of Southern Chinese descent. Between 17 and 23 years old at the time of death. About 5 feet 6 inches tall. Wearing women's clothing, a blue ribbed short-sleeve shirt, women's pants, a bra. The DA confirmed he may have identified as a woman or been known to others as one. He died of blunt force trauma to the head. Investigators believe he was killed in 2006 or earlier. meaning his remains lay in that brush for at least 5 years before anyone found them. He is still unidentified. As of this video, as of today, a $2,500 reward. New forensic reconstructions in 2024. Outreach materials in Mandarin and Cantonese distributed across New York City's Chinese communities. Nobody has come forward. A teenager, possibly living in New York City, killed violently, left on a Long Island highway. 14 years in evidence storage, still waiting for one person to recognize the face in the sketch and make the call. Rex Heuermann has not been linked to this case. Nobody has been charged. He is the only person from this entire corridor whose story remains completely unknown. And if you know anything, the number is 1-800-220-TIPS. Back to Rex Heuermann, because there's one final behavioral detail that closes the loop on everything. His planning document, the Microsoft Word file recovered from a hard drive in his basement after he thought he'd deleted it, contained notes lifted almost verbatim from specific pages of John Douglas's book Mindhunter, the memoir that became the Netflix series. Written by the man who built the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit. Page 175. Douglas describes a woman's screams, mutilation that followed, and notes that excessive mutilation is a characteristic of what he calls a disorganized personality type. Heuermann read that passage, flagged it, and then structured his crimes to avoid fitting that profile. To appear organized, to counter the exact framework investigators would use to find him. He was using the FBI's own profiling manual as a reverse playbook, reading the book that trained the people hunting him, and adjusting his method accordingly. The DA said it directly. He used Mindhunter to better hone his craft as a hunter of women. And now, as part of his plea agreement, Rex Heuermann must cooperate with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. The same unit John Douglas built. The same methodology he tried to use against them. He will sit across from FBI profilers and answer questions about his motivation, his evolution, his victim selection, and his method of avoiding detection for 30 years. Former FBI Behavioral Program head Robin Drake said that what investigators learn from Heuermann will be used to build frameworks for catching the organized killers who are still operating right now. The ones who, according to FBI estimates, number between 25 and 50 active in the United States at any given time. They're active right now, looking exactly like everyone around them.
At some point, I did see some despair in those individuals when they were in their cells. Yet every single time I have walked into that housing area and toured and saw Rex Heuermann, there seemed like there wasn't a care in the world, and also a little bit of smugness about his demeanor.
Heuermann spends his days meeting visitors. He's had 150 visits so far, the sheriff says, mostly with his attorney and family, watching TV, and once a week meets with a cleric for up to an hour.
It's mostly someone from the Catholic faith, so it can be a priest or a nun.
The sheriff says Heuermann, who is in voluntary segregation, meaning he's always alone, spends time at the law library and reading books.
Most recently, one is The Devil's Banker, and the second one is West Wind. So those are the two books that he most recently has taken out.
Behind bars, the sheriff describes the serial killer as a model citizen.
He's been totally compliant, and I think part of that is because he's around men.
The sheriff said there are no female correction officers in Rex Heuermann's housing area, and there's a reason for that.
That's his modus operandi, and who knows what he would do, what could be a potential trigger.
His sentencing is June 17, 2026. His attorney has said Rex Heuermann intends to speak. Nobody knows what he plans to say. 8 confirmed victims. 1 case officially undetermined. 1 mother and toddler who waited 28 years. 1 teenager with no name. And a man who killed the same month he got married, kept a paper towel square in his desk for 13 years, tracked a coworker to a cruise ship to leave a note under her door, and sat next to all of it, every single day for 3 decades while the neighbors waved from the driveway. Joel Rifkin told you how it works. You think of people as things. Every name in this video was a person. Every single one. Drop a comment with the detail that stopped you. The wedding month. The desk drawer. The 2-year-old. The teenager who still has no name. The fact that Andrew Dykes wore a badge for 28 years. Because the worst part of this case isn't that it happened. It's how long everything stayed invisible inside ordinary life. And how much of it still is.